we'll talk about the uncomfortable but necessary conversations about misusing psychological safety. We'll explore how this powerful tool can be weaponized and sometimes unintentionally, but weaponized nonetheless, and the real consequences when psychological safety is misunderstood or it is misused. And of course, we'll share some practical things that we've done with our clients and things that you can do to better understand psychological safety at work, as well as how you can implement it, right? You can be a champion within your companies on how to create a more psychologically safe space. I want to share a story. I've been working with a client recently, and the conversation started with their top executive around, psychological safety. They had done an employee engagement survey, and out of that employee engagement survey, they concluded that people had concerns or were being negatively impacted by psychological safety at work. So they didn't feel a sense of psychological safety at work. And I find it really interesting that people will say, well, I don't feel psychologically safe, but they don't really know the true definition of the word. Now, that does not mean that they're not being impacted by poor leadership at work, but maybe it's not psychological safety as it's defined for high performing teams and culture. Maybe it's, hey, we just got a bad leader who's manipulative, who is a bully, who is, you can go toxic. We can go down the list. But I want to be really clear what psychological safety really focuses on and just kind of summarize that for you. You can listen to past shows or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can get more information on what psychological safety is and some of the topics that we've talked about over the last year. But for the sake of today's conversation and, anywhere that you talk about this term in an organization, on a board, at your companies and on your team, psychological safety is really focused on the ability for employees to feel a sense of inclusion, a sense of belonging at work based on who they are, their skills and talents, and how they're able to contribute to the overall organization. Psychological safety is also about, their ability to offer ideas, to be creative, to take risks, and contribute to the direction that the company is going. They have a lot of autonomy over their work and their ability to create processes and to share those with others, or maybe even contribute to how something is done that is outside of their purview, their immediate purview. So they're able to share an idea or something that they learned. They can contribute in a big way to an organization. Psychological safety also means that they can challenge ideas. They can even challenge you if you're the boss. They can have a healthy discourse and an opposing viewpoint and not feel as if they're going to be shut down or retaliated against. Psychological safety creates this environment where people are accountable. They can raise their hands and say, I made a mistake, and it not be held against them for long periods of time. And they are given actionable steps on how they can fix it. So psychological safety is really about how we work and how we're able to work in the workplace and contribute, how we can challenge, how we can have this sense of belonging in the workplace, and we're not manipulated, and our ideas are free, and we can address bias in the workplace is another thing that is very important when it comes to addressing and talking about psychological safety. So hopefully we are really clear about what psychological safety is. So that's a summary, right? But what we find is that most people don't really understand what psychological safety is. We don't know how to apply it at work. We don't even know how to create adjacency with our own emotional intelligence for psychological safety. Some of us have very high psychological safety at the workplace, right? We are on teams where we know that we have the ability to contribute, that we know that we can speak up with a dissenting viewpoint. We work we have leaders who are focused on our development. So and then we may have a high level of emotional intelligence, and so does our boss. What happens when you don't? What happens when you think you know what psychological safety is? Or maybe you've been trained and you've taken a course on psychological safety, but now you're weaponizing it. And so, what does weaponizing psychological safety look like? It can come in a variety of forms, right? Both leaders can misuse psychological safety and what it means and how it should play out in the workplace, as well as staff and employees. And I want to spend some time talking about how staff and employees may misuse it and manipulate the system that's designed to support them to create to be in a psychologically safe space. So, if someone just randomly blurts out, "I don't feel psychologically safe with you," I'm going to say, you know what, there may be some manipulation there. Especially if you've never heard the term before, if it's never come up in past conversations, if you've never had a conversation about how the employee feels with how they engage with you, they might be manipulating the situation, especially if it's happening during a feedback process. You're sharing something with them that they don't want to hear, they don't like to hear, that's difficult to hear about their performance and your expectations as a leader, what you expect from them. And then they start to say, well, I don't feel psychologically safe. I don't like the way they said this, or I don't think it's fair that I have to do something and someone else doesn't. That is not what psychological safety is. It is not a weapon, a tool to weaponize in the workplace, because I've seen leaders feel completely deflated in some of our work sessions when they say, I had an employee tell me they didn't feel psychologically safe, but I feel like I'm doing everything to ensure that they grow, they develop, they have opportunities in the organization. And then they say this to me, now I don't know what to do, right? Now I feel like I have to write and document everything. I've even seen employees use psychological safety as a way to take a leave of absence. They feel like, you know what, I'm tired of working. This job is too demanding, but I love my paycheck. And then they decide, well, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that this work environment and the pressure is causing me mental anguish. I don't feel psychologically safe. I'm going to partner with a healthcare provider and find a way to leave the workforce temporarily and still get paid. And that is manipulation, right? That is not how psychological safety was designed for teams to work and to foster innovation, creativity, and collaboration. So look out for those signs. If you see a high number of people in your organization taking leaves of absence for mental health breaks, there needs to be something put in place to address that, not to deny the leave, but to address how do they come back, what needs to happen while they're away, if that is possible. But this is why, right, the constant learning and educating your workforce about what psychological safety is crucial and crucially important. So how can we create a psychological safe environment for employees to express themselves? I think it's really important for employees to have a place where they can vent, right? I just got some stuff I need to get out on this project. It's challenging. Working with this team, or maybe even working with an individual, is challenging. I think part of psychological safety needs to be, I can express this. And even if it's riddled and wrapped in a significant amount of emotion, I can say, I just need to get it out. And having someone there, excuse me, that is safe to get it out with is really important, right? So having a leader, I know when I was still working in public accounting, excuse me, I had many moments where I felt like I need to get it out. I want to be able to express and I just need to vent. And I was really fortunate that I had a place I could go to vent. And I had a person, right? I had my person in the organization. This person wasn't responsible for providing me performance evaluations. They were still a leader in the organization. So when I did have a place that I could go vent, they could turn that around, right? They could reframe what I was going through, not in a way that made me feel like I was experiencing someone gaslighting me, but in a way that was productive and active, right? So they gave me active things to consider based on what I was, sharing with them, and also giving me a space where I still had a sense of belonging, that my point of view was valid, my experience was valid. But now, what can you do, Jeannine, to to be a better contributor and to address this issue that you're facing in the workplace. And that's how you should experience psychological safety at work. You should be able to have these breakdowns occasionally, right? Not a whole lot of them. And then have leaders in your organization to say to help you turn that around. So I think that's a really important part of this. I think what we find when we see the misuse of psychological safety, it's sometimes on the end of the leader. And so, what can a leader do to misuse or manipulate someone um, and their psychological safety at work? And I was reading the Harvard Business Review, and there was a really great example because I've seen this over and over. So, the example that they use is the leader has a significant amount of work, right? They have a heavy workload and they're trying to delegate that work, but their team members also have a heavy workload. And so, instead of having a conversation about the workload, the leader says, in order for you to demonstrate your commitment here or you being a team player, you're going to help take some of the work off my plate, right? And when people use words like, oh, we want you to be a part of the team, but then you feel this heavy weight around what you're being asked. Sometimes I would question, like, are they trying to manipulate me? Right? They're using these words every time they want me to do something. They're using words that would make me feel as if I said no, I would be wrong. So if I say, well, no, I can't do that because what my current priorities are won't allow me to meet my deadlines. But I feel like I have to say yes because then it demonstrates that I'm not a team player. Because they've already used the words. Hey, you want to be a team player, you want to show your commitment to the organization and to what we're doing. If you want to show that, you'll do this. And so what we would tend to process is, well, if I say no, then they're going to think I'm not a team player. They're going to think that I'm not committed to the work. And that is one of the bigger misuses of psychological safety at work. Hey there, this is Jeannine K Brown, your host of the UnToxic Boss. Did you enjoy that clip? If you did, there's so much more waiting for you in the full episode. You can catch the entire conversation over on Spotify or anywhere where you listen to podcasts. Just press the link below. We're exploring some powerful topics, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. So don't forget to leave comments, reviews, and of course, if you love the show, give us a 5-star rating. Your feedback helps us grow and reach more people who need these conversations and solutions. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next episode. Remember, don't be a jerk.